It's a cheating cool. Metal Radio.
Cheating on your death metal. How could you do such a thing? Whether or not you thought that was absolutely awful. A year ago, I wouldn't have been able to play that. And a year from now, I'm going to watch this video and I'm going to cringe. Because progress is the point. And along the way with the drums, you develop ways to hit them. And there's different character that you develop. And that's why, for me, cheating kind of starts with triggers. So, I have a special guest today. Extreme metal drummer Derek Roddy, who would know a lot about the subject because with his involvement with Nile, Malevolent Creation, Hate Eternal, so he knows a lot about the ins and outs of the recording process, and he has a few thoughts on trigger drums and cheating. Along the way, we're going to see if we found the scholar that can help us use our ears in a segment edited or not. Before we get into any of that, let's start with bad sounding trigger drums. It's the root of the issue when it comes to cheating, but is anybody actually saying anything? Come with me. Let's go over to the Reaper Metal fan club over here on Patreon. Jan says, I can appreciate albums with bad sounding triggered drums. I love Spiritual Healing as well as Deicide's first album. If the songs are good, I guess at the end of the day that is pretty much what matters. But to me, the sound of the drums is going to, in a lot of ways, decipher whether I like the song or not, and I don't think I'm alone. Bjorn says, Morbid Angel, Domination, was eagerly awaiting that one, but picking that up on release day in 1995 was a bummer as the drums sounded like ass. The songs are great, but especially the bass drums sound awful. Nothing like the pummeling on Covenant. Well, there you go, my point proven. So who else is supporting this argument? Well, let's head over here on Instagram and see what the Reaper Metal followers are saying over there. The kind people that are still on the fence about becoming fan club members. Electronic 666 says, Death Human is an album with bad sounding triggers. I don't know, I'm going to have to go back to that one and listen closer. Alex Goatman 445, Carcass Reek, Entombed Left Hand Path, and any garbage ban on Maggot Stomp. Sorry about that, Maggot Stomp. And Joseph O'Donovan says, Serpents of the Light. I don't really have a problem with the drum sound on that one, I have to say. And of course, he's helping make this show possible. So the producer had to say Vader Litany and Christian Ageless Venomous. Well, as the old joke goes, it's been a while, so we have to find out what J-Dog has to say.
Master Seventh Day album. Now, before everyone beats me up online, it's been like at least 10 years since I heard that record. But I remember when I first heard it, I was like, oh man, this sounds really shitty. I remember the self-title being really shitty too, and I know there's two different recordings of it. I think there was a double disc that came out a while ago now that had both recordings on there, original without triggers and with triggers. I remember comparing them back to back. I'm like, oh, whoa, this sounds, the one without triggers is way better. So Master comes to my mind, and producer reminded me of the Christian Ageless Venomous. Which I actually do like the songs of that album, and I like Alex's vocals a lot on it, but the triggers on that sound like absolute fucking dog shit. I guess a lot of it's personal preference. Like, I know some guys probably don't like the first Deicide, first Demolition Hammer. I personally love those records, and the triggers on there don't bother me at all. So it's kind of personal preference, but those are the ones that come to my mind on top of my head.
I bring the light until the cloud help me
Poser. Metal.
We're exploring the further regions of experience. Demons to song, angels to order. Where does your soul
So Derek Roddy's here, and he's going to help me, I guess, debunk this in sorts. So if you could at least clarify first, what is the difference between a trigger and, as we all know it, acoustically, where you would use a microphone as I'm doing right now, only on a drum? If you could present us an A and B example.
So here's the mic. And here's the trigger. Are triggers cheating? No. So when you use a trigger unit and you plug it up to your trigger that mounts either on the pedal or on the drum head, you still have to play the note in order for it to fire a MIDI signal to make the sample, right? Or whatever sound you're using. So in and of itself, triggering is not cheating. You still have to be able to play. When people hear the term trigger, they attribute that to production. So then you start talking about what is production these days. And a lot of times the drummers don't even know who are recording, that they themselves are being manipulated. They're playing. Their notes are being moved, and they're being put on a grid. And it is no longer the performance. Where I draw the line with all of this is when you start moving notes and you start changing the drummer's identity, because I'm no longer interested in that point. You know, I'm like, if I hear a sample on a snare drum, I hit stop immediately. And that sucks because it's 99% of music that's released, and not even just in metal, but Pat Metheny, one of his last records that Antonio Sanchez played on, he told me that was sound replaced. You know, the reason that they do that is for isolation, right? That's how it all started.
Yeah.
Going back to Scott Burns and why it was done to begin with, they were trying to isolate the kick drums as much as possible, right? So I'll give you an example. You know, you're looking at a bass drum, and it's a big round cylinder. You ever play in a drainage ditch as a kid?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and so you yell in it
Right.
at your friend on the other side, and you hear that kind of echo.
Totally.
You know, so the bigger a drum is and the longer it is, the more of that you're going to get, which gets away from that thunk,
Right.
that nice sound that you're going for in metal. But here's a bass drum. You know, you can hear the swell in it.
You can also hear the
Right.
hi-hat resonating.
Yeah.
But that's a key factor.
got
That's
that.
that isolation, though.
Yeah. And that's why you want isolation, because you get stuff like that. You got a microphone inside there that's causing all types of phasing issues because it's facing another way of all the other mics.
Yeah.
And it was just a way to get isolation because they wanted these kick drums up in your face. And it's hard to do. Like, go back and listen to Rain and Blood. Like, their record actually sounds really good when you isolate the tones in your ear, you know? So, like, listening to the bass drums, they're there. You can hear them, but they're not isolated, you know? Like, that's the thing. Because it's just too easy to Control-Alt-Delete and do another take. It's too hard for musicians to live with a performance because of computers, you know. Is that cheating? I don't know. I think it's just a symptom of where everybody is at in their minds socially.
We're almost in a way we've got more tools to our avail. You got acoustic versions.
Yeah.
Like, bassists.
And like I said, if you're honest about it, knock yourself out. You know, I mean, that's the thing.
Well, if you didn't.
Who cares at that point?
Well, if you disregarded, like, electronic music, like, there wasn't electronic music happening in the 50s because, like, it just
Right.
wasn't of that era.
But
So-
nobody's calling electronic music cheating either, really. You
Well,
know?
right, and so
unless you start using pre-recorded things that other people have done, you know, when electronica first started out, man, it was mostly people making their own music just on electronic instruments.
records that people love are some of the sloppiest ones because they're fucking honest.
Yeah. Look, the best-selling records of all time didn't have any of this technology on it. So
Yeah.
you can say what you want, but, you know.
Developing style and speed and stuff, and there wasn't this crap to distract you. What were you referencing to get faster when, like, there wasn't how to do a blast beat?
You know, after Motley Crue and Maiden in middle school, you know, obviously I was looking for heavier stuff, and I kind of skipped over like Metallica and most of the Bay Area stuff except for Slayer. And once I heard Slayer, I went right from Slayer to Napalm Death and then Morbid Angel and Terrorizer and, you know, Deicide, all that stuff. So I think it, you know, my playing was more like a snowball, like building a snowman, where it just gradually happened over time. It was nothing I ever intentionally like set out to do. I just kind of ended up here just through the choices of music that I liked. I connected with music in a way that was like, wow, I'd like to play some music like that. Not that I would like to be fast on the drums. At least I'm honest again, like with my playing and what I'm doing with my band and how we're writing, even like the recording process this time. We wrote all of this stuff as a band, right? So, and what I mean by that is nobody came into the room with like, hey, I got this riff. We'll end up playing 30, 40 minutes, and out of that, I've got probably 2 songs worth of material.
Off the
I can
cuff,
just take
too,
it, chop
right?
it up, put it together, you know what I mean? All right,
Yeah.
hey, check this out, play it for the guys. They're like, dude, that's sick. When did you write that? I was like, that's us. They're like, what are you talking about? I was like, remember that jam the other night we were playing and like we played for like 30 minutes? I recorded all of that. So now what we did is we would have to go back and learn it all.
So
That's
there,
gone.
we've debunked it. I mean, we've given it at least enough examples, so you can decipher, internet.
Moco has intercepted your feed. We offer you invaluable insight. It is up to you to heed our words and evolve. On the topic of triggered drums, if a drummer hits a perfect double bass roll in the forest, and no one is around to hear it, does it make a sound? Fuck off, we do not care. Enjoy the fight.
Where are we at with this cheating conversation? It started out with bad sampled triggers. And like Derek presented to us, it's actually kind of when you start editing and start doing things that aren't up to your ability, right? That would be the essence of cheating. Well, if that's the case, then the producer has lined up here some examples that hopefully we have scholar ears that I could listen to this at this point and pinpoint. Are these examples edited or not?
First one is Morbid Angel, opening of the gates off of their Gateways to Annihilation album.
So in 9 seconds, I have to decipher, is this edited or not? Boom, load it up, let's go. So obviously we're pinpointing probably the kick drums on that one.
Yes.
And I mean, like,
On all of these, really.
I can't even really like just even decipher like that because it basically just gets to a point that the kicks are so damn fast that the intensity of the song to me doesn't even improve it because you still have a snare just where it's just putting all this just sounds like popcorn. So I'm going with like that's totally edited because it just doesn't even sound humanly possible.
This is Dimmu Borgir off The Chosen Legacy is the song off of In Sorta Diabole.
The 9 seconds is on the clock. Hit me, producer.
Okay.
Dude, that is like now, yes, edited, but like that is also just bad sample because like that just whenever I think of this stuff, it's like that just impossibly human or possibly not human, and then like just horrible. It doesn't even sound like there's drum at this point. It sounds like a sample to me. So I'm going with edited.
We have Mayhem, Deconsecrate off their Ordo Ad Chaos.
9 more seconds. Mayhem, hit me. Huh. Well, I mean, they might have edited like guitar riffs because they fucked it up, but I'm going to go with that was actually real.
Well, it's Hellhammer.
I'm going to give Hellhammer the credit. No, just even the tone, because sometimes I think it's because it could be still, like Derek proved to us, an honest performance and just a bad sample. But sometimes when it's a bad sample, it just seems like dishonesty is going to be there, and the edit's always is going to be there as well. Because why would you go for something so bad? And especially when you're going in with such a fine-toothed comb as this editing drums is. I'm going to go with honest.
Aborted.
Okay.
Off of their latest album, Mania Cult. This is the song Dementiphobia.
9 seconds on the clock, and we're going to assess this. I mean, again, it's got the not so pleasant sounding sample. That one's not as crazy as the Inhumanly Possible Speed kicks, but it's pretty much there. So I'm going with edited on that for sure.
I've seen him play. I know him pretty well. I'm going to go real on that one.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. The final example.
This is Vital Remains, Dechristianize, off of their Dechristianize the album.
9 seconds. Keep YouTube happy. Vital Remains. Hit me. Definitely sampled. Humanly possible, though.
Sounds real for sure.
I'm going to go with that's real.
And that was our final example.
All right. Well, what did we prove? Who knows? But this is an example of edited or not. In closing, has cheating ruined records for me? Absolutely. There are many records that I can hear over-editing, bad-sounding triggers, but then there are ones then that have just went over my head, didn't notice it. Well, if I didn't notice it, then I would have to just surmise that, sure. And then there are definitely ones where, sure, I've heard bad-sounding triggers, I've heard over-editing, and I didn't care. I still liked the record. So then what is the message between all this? And I would have to say, I guess, cheat wisely if you're going to do it. Because if you're a musician or a producer, you might be stiffing yourself. If you're a fan, well then you might be getting a distasteful sounding record. And so if you enjoy this conversation, then I invite you to go to ReaperMetalProductions.com, where you will find hours of podcast episodes, videos, and music. And a special shout out to Derek Roddy, who took out time on his day to share his thoughts and be on this episode, because he also did a full 1 hour and 38-minute episode of Into the Darkness, which you can also find at ReaperMetalProductions.com.